My wife said she was staying with her grieving mom, but an emergency crash alert from her phone led me to a hotel 3 cities away, where I watched her walk out with her lover and smile like nothing was wrong. The emergency alert came through at 2:47 a.m. while I was watching Netflix alone in our living room. Car accident detected. Emergency services contacted. Location, Hampton Inn, 2247 Harbor Drive, Millfield. I stared at my phone screen in confusion because my wife Rachel was supposed to be sleeping at her mother's house 40 minutes away, not at some hotel 3 cities over. I called her immediately. No answer. Called again. Straight to voicemail. Rachel had been making these overnight trips to her mom's house every few weeks for the past 6 months. Mom's been really depressed since Dad died, she'd explain. She needs the company, and I hate leaving her alone all night. It seemed reasonable. Sweet, even. Her father had passed away 8 months ago, and her mother lived alone in the house where Rachel grew up. But now her phone was pinging from a hotel parking lot at 3 a.m., and she wasn't answering my calls. I drove to her mother's house first, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Maybe she'd forgotten her phone in the car. Maybe she'd lent it to someone. Maybe there was some logical explanation that didn't involve my wife lying to me about where she was spending the night. Her mother answered the door in her bathrobe, looking confused and worried. "Is Rachel okay?" she asked immediately. "Why are you here so late? She's supposed to be staying with you tonight." The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. "She hasn't been here in weeks, David. Not since the funeral." My stomach dropped. "She told me she's been staying over to keep you company. Every few weeks." "I would love that, but no. She calls sometimes, but she hasn't stayed overnight since right after your father-in-law died." I showed her the emergency alert on my phone. We both stared at the Hampton Inn address like it was written in a foreign language. "Maybe she's having car trouble and stopped for the night?" her mother suggested weakly. But we both knew that wasn't it. People don't lie about where they're going when they're just having car trouble. I drove to Millfield like a man possessed, calling Rachel's phone every few minutes. Still nothing. The Hampton Inn was exactly where the GPS said it would be, a mid-range business hotel with a parking garage and a lobby that probably looked the same as every other Hampton Inn in America. Rachel's silver Honda was parked on the 3rd level of the garage. No accident damage. No signs of distress. Just her car sitting there like she'd parked it intentionally and walked inside. I stood next to her car for 10 minutes trying to make sense of this. My wife of 7 years had been lying to me about staying with her grieving mother while actually spending nights at hotels. The woman who lectured me about communication and honesty in marriage was conducting some kind of secret life that involved overnight stays in strange cities. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Phone died earlier. Sorry if you worried. Staying at mom's tonight. Love you." She was still lying. Standing in the hotel parking garage looking at her car, I was getting a text about how her phone had died and she was at her mother's house. The audacity was breathtaking. I went to the front desk and asked if Rachel Henderson was registered. The clerk couldn't give me information about guests, but he confirmed that someone had checked in earlier that evening. I showed him my ID with our shared last name and spun some story about a family emergency. "She's in room 412, he said reluctantly. "But I really shouldn't be telling you this." I took the elevator to the 4th floor with my heart hammering against my ribs. Part of me still hoped there was some innocent explanation. Maybe she was here with a friend who was having a crisis. Maybe she was planning some kind of surprise for me. Maybe there was a reason she needed to lie about where she was that didn't involve betraying our marriage. But when I got to room 412 and pressed my ear to the door, I heard voices. Rachel's laugh, high and flirty. A man's voice, low and intimate. The sound of a bed creaking. Something was wrong. I stood in that hotel hallway for 20 minutes listening to my wife have sex with another man. Not quick, guilty sex. Long, passionate, comfortable sex. The kind that happens between people who know each other's bodies well. The kind that happens when you have all night and nowhere else to be. When it finally got quiet, I heard them talking. Rachel's voice, soft and affectionate, saying things like "I missed you so much and I hate that we can only do this every few weeks." His voice responding with endearments I couldn't quite make out, but that sounded practiced, familiar. This wasn't a one-night stand or a moment of weakness. This was a relationship. A regular, ongoing, carefully scheduled relationship that had been happening for months while I thought my wife was being a devoted daughter to her grieving mother. I went back to my car and sat in the parking garage until morning, watching the entrance to see who would come out of that room with my wife. At 7:23 a.m., Rachel emerged with a man I didn't recognize. Tall, dark hair, wearing a business suit like he was heading to work. They kissed goodbye in the lobby like a married couple parting for the day. Rachel checked out, got in her car, and drove home while I followed at a distance. She beat me there by 10 minutes, just enough time to change clothes and mess up the guest bed to make it look like she'd slept there instead of in a hotel room with her lover. "How was your night?" I asked when I walked in, trying to keep my voice normal. "Fine. Mom was having a hard time sleeping, so we stayed up talking. She was making coffee like it was any other morning, like she hadn't spent the night in another man's arms while texting me lies about her phone being dead." "Did you get my texts?" "Yeah, sorry about that. My phone died right after I texted you. I should have called from Mom's landline, but I didn't want to wake you. Every word was a lie. Every sentence was calculated to maintain the fiction that she was a caring daughter instead of a cheating wife. The ease with which she lied was almost more devastating than the affair itself. I waited 3 days before confronting her. 3 days of watching her maintain the pretense, listening to her make plans for her next visit with Mom, seeing her check her phone with little smiles that I now knew weren't for me. I know about the Hampton Inn, I said finally. Rachel froze with her coffee mug halfway to her lips. What? I know you weren't at your mother's house. I know about room 412. I know about him. Her face went through a series of expressions: confusion, denial, calculation, and finally resignation. How long have you known? Since the emergency alert from your phone. That stupid car accident detection, she muttered. I forgot about that. So you're not even going to deny it? Rachel set down her coffee and looked at me with something that might have been relief. No. I'm tired of lying. How long? 6 months. Since Mom started feeling better and didn't need me staying over anymore. So you decided to start needing something else. His name is Trevor. We met at Dad's funeral. He's the grief counselor from the hospice program. The irony was sickening. While I thought she was comforting her mother through grief, she was actually having an affair with the man who'd helped them process her father's death. She'd turned her family's tragedy into an opportunity for betrayal. I didn't plan for it to happen, she said. But he understood what I was going through in a way you couldn't. So instead of talking to your husband about your grief, you started screwing the counselor. It wasn't about sex. It was about connection. About being with someone who understood loss. And the lies? The elaborate stories about staying with your mom? Was that about connection too? Rachel looked down at her hands. I knew you wouldn't understand. I knew you'd make me choose. You did choose. You chose him. You chose to lie. You chose to make me worry about your mother while you were having hotel sex with a grief counselor. The divorce took 4 months. Rachel moved in with Trevor, which felt like adding insult to injury. Not only had she cheated, but she'd traded up to someone she considered better suited to her emotional needs. Her mother was devastated when she found out. She'd been looking forward to more visits from Rachel, not knowing that her daughter had been using her grief as cover for an affair. The betrayal fractured their relationship too. I still get phantom emergency alerts sometimes. My phone will buzz and for a split second I think it's another location ping from Rachel's phone, another revelation that will turn my world upside down. But it's always just weather warnings or Amber Alerts, normal emergencies that don't involve discovering your wife's secret life. The worst part isn't that she cheated. It's that she used her father's death and her mother's grief as cover for the affair. She turned a family tragedy into a convenient excuse for betrayal, lying to everyone who loved her while playing the role of the devoted daughter and wife. Technology caught her in the end. One emergency alert at 2:47 a.m. that revealed 6 months of lies. Sometimes the truth finds a way to surface, even when people work overtime to bury it. But by then, the damage is already done, and all you're left with is the knowledge that the person you trusted most was the one running the longest con.